Should body count matter?
I don't have an issue with it mattering for certain people, but for me it doesn't matter, and I wouldn't be attracted to a guy for which he finds it to be pertinent information.
No one else's body count matters but my own. That makes sense.
Sort of.
So like that.
You wouldn't
Yeah.
you wouldn't mind dating a guy who had like 300 previous sexual partners?
I'd be intimidated.
Okay.
But I wouldn't mind.
Sure.
Personally, it doesn't matter. I've been dating this guy for like 8 months now. I don't know his body count. He doesn't know mine, and we don't really care.
Sure.
Yeah, same. I think that it's fine if it matters to you or your partner. I think you guys can discuss that privately, but to me, it doesn't matter. No.
I think it does matter. They say that if you're interested in a relationship, best predictor of future behavior is relevant past behavior. I don't know about the statistics for men. I still think it matters if you're a woman what your male partner's body count is, but I know for women there is a correlation between number of partners before marriage and likelihood of divorce. So we can go into exactly what the reasons might be, but I think overall for a prospective boyfriend or husband to care about that, I think it's reasonable.
So are you talking about the Institute of Family Studies? Because that's the one study that's shown it. Interestingly, they show that 2 is the worst, and if you have 2, it shows it goes up after 9. So would you, if someone who slept with 2 people, would you say they should sleep with a few more so their likelihood of divorce goes down? And if we're going to talk about divorce statistics, the first thing you should be looking at is a college educated woman. It's their first marriage, and that they're between 25 and 32, because those are the 3 biggest things that really reduce your likelihood of divorce. If you just do those 3, your divorce rate is now at 20% instead of 50. So yeah, I do think I think it's a good conversation to have if you're talking about lifestyle, right? If you've slept with hundreds of people, you probably party a lot, you probably drink a lot, and if the other person doesn't. But maybe a little bit it does, if you're like, oh, the likelihood of divorce and stuff. But if someone's going to use that, the likelihood of divorce, then I expect you to pick women that at least on those things that matter far more when we're talking about likelihood of getting divorced.
I mean, I'm for men, especially when it comes to marriage, being very picky. So I'm not going to say no. Yes, absolutely. With divorce rates what they are, I think you should be as much as possible trying to, I don't want to say hedge your bets because that's not a good way to look at a marriage, but yeah, I think it makes a lot of sense to try and be as smart and as possible, especially like we were talking about, divorce courts, that all of these things should matter. A holistic approach to not wanting to get divorced, if you will. Yeah,
that study's just funny because it goes up, the highest is 2, and then it kind of goes down until 9, and then it goes up again. So if you're going to hedge your bets, if you've only slept with 2 people, you might want to add a few more in, because according to that one study.
Well, I think when you cross, I would want to see a multivariate regression that actually takes into account age, because what that tells someone like me is that the highest being 2, it's likely people who are younger who are getting married, which we also know the likelihood if you're 18 to get married and divorced is going to be much higher than if you're 25 or something.
I agree.
Like that.
That's why I'm it's annoying that that's the one study that even shows that, is that one Institute of Family. I think there should be more research done on this.
Yeah, and I'm not just basing my answer off that one study either.
But do you really need a study to know that promiscuity is an undesirable trait?
Well, it's actually, so desirability is different than divorce. So actually there has been studies done on lifetime partners and that impacting your likelihood of marriage, and there's no impact. So your body count doesn't actually impact your likelihood of getting married. It does impact likelihood of divorce, that's true, but it doesn't impact desirability enough, because men are still these women are still just as likely to get a ring on it as women who have lower body counts.
And that's what we're trying to change with this show. How about
Jasmine,
that?
You really need to stop bringing up college education. Education itself is not what leads to lateral attraction. Even if partners have same education, income and socioeconomic status holds more weight than education itself.
Not with divorce and divorce statistics. Education is a variable that has been shown to have this effect more so than those other ones. But I did say socioeconomic status does impact it.
Well, it's hard to divorce them, right? I mean, someone from a certain socioeconomic status, you're almost guaranteed to have gone to college if your parents make over. So you can't really, he's trying to say divorce them. They're overlapping.
I think they could, and people of higher socioeconomic status do get divorced less often, and I think maybe that could be because it's also college education, and also a lot of couples argue about finances, and if you're of a higher socioeconomic status, you're not worried, you don't have those stresses of poverty, how am I going to put food on the table, those things impact your relationship, so yeah.
But okay, we were talking about body count.
Yeah, so body
So-
count, it doesn't impact desirability because those
Of
women are
course
just
it
as like, but
impacts
those women are just
desirability.
as likely to get married. So a woman with a high body count and one with a low body count have the same likelihood of marriage. When we're looking at lifetime partners, there is a discrepancy if we look at recent partners. And the researchers in the study concluded that maybe, obviously, if you're sleeping around right now, maybe you're not ready for marriage, you're just at a different point in your life. But they looked at lifetime partners and they looked at a probability of getting married, and that they didn't find any link
if
there.
every single woman that ever existed or does exist were to have a body count of 300, women would still get married. Men would, I suppose, tolerate this new thing, but it doesn't mean it's a good thing or that it's desirable.
Well, are you saying if I was telling women, like, okay, it seems like your likelihood of getting married is the same, so maybe men are just tolerating it, but they are tolerating it. So, and also I think hookup culture is misconstrued. When you look at the actual stats, most people are not, it's like 20% that they're showing that is doing this. And a lot of times they use the Pareto principle or whatever, that 20% of men are getting 80% of women. Well, when you reverse it, it's the same, that 20% of women are. So what's really happening is that 20% of the population is promiscuous and the rest kind of aren't. Most people, if you look at those GSS studies of sexlessness and whatever, over 80% of men and women in the past year have had sex either with one person or with zero people. It's not this thing that men or women. I think it's one of those things of like, remember when we were in school and it's like, Mom, everyone does drugs, everyone drinks. I feel like hookup culture in these spaces is becoming that, because people assume in these spaces like everyone's hooking up and this is just becoming a thing. Everyone's body count is like in the hundreds. It's not true. Most people are having sex in.
You think it's equal 1-to-1?
What do you mean?
When it comes to, you think
Men
it's
have
just
more
totally-
partners. Yeah. No, men have more partners than women do.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. At least, I mean, I don't know about like among certain populations, but in general, yeah, that is true.
From what I remember, across all age groups, that was the case.
And I also want to say that it is like, it's a double-edged sword, because I know a lot of single Christian women who want to wait until marriage, and we can say that men, they want to marry a virgin. A lot of men don't want to date a virgin and wait to marry her. So it is like, it's hard. Like you're kind of, I mean, as a woman, if you want that, that's going to be a challenge for you, even to just be able to be in a long-term relationship with a man in this day and age and not put out. So that's like, it's hard in that situation.
I agree with that. I think that it can be hard, but this idea that people are just having these crazy high body counts and up in the hundreds, that's very rare. The average is not anywhere near that. And most people, upwards of 80%, if you look at who they've had sex with in the past few years, it's a partner in a relationship or a marriage. People aren't just going off and fucking 200 people the way the manosphere likes to think.
Well, I mean,
Men who
the
aren't.
stats that I'm familiar with, and I'm familiar with the GSS, the General Social Survey, whatever it's
The
called.
2018 one is probably the only one you're familiar with.
I am
because
familiar with that one, yes.
How about the 2021 or 2022? Because you should look those up, and those have a very different result.
What
than-
is the average?
So the one he's referring is one that kind of blew up in these spaces where it shows that like a third of men aren't having sex in the past year, but that
There's
women,
also one from Pew Research,
yeah. So
which shows that I think it's 60% of men in the age range of 18 to 29 report being single, whereas in that same exact age cohort, women are much more likely to be in a relationship.
So there's been other ones that don't show that, but also one of the reasons for that is women tend to date a couple years older. So if they were to expand the male side of that to like 33, 34, then the number would be a lot less, because there's a lot of women, if you're only cutting it off at 29, well, 28, 27, 26-year-old women are dating men that are 30, 31, 32, then that's part of where that discrepancy comes from.
Age could explain that, but
Yeah.
it's still a pretty staggering. I mean, the fact that there's in the cohort of men between 18 to 29, if 60%, I forgot if it was the exact numbers, but it's like twice as many men are single as women.
So the other studies have shown like a 10%. So it's less than that. It's 10%. And that maybe there's still some of that even when we measure for age. But they have shown that if we just increase the male side, so if we look at women and cap it at 29, but we cap men at 34, 35, that changes significantly, because a lot of women are dating men that are a few years older than them.
Something else that I saw that I forgot who it was that posted about it, but that might explain at least some of the disparity between men and women being single. And this just frustrates me and makes me really glad that I'm not single, is that women are a lot more likely to qualify what their relationship status is with the same person as being a relationship versus a man who might say, oh no, we're not in a relationship. Like we're just or whatever that is. And I could totally see that contributing to at least some of it.
Yeah, I agree. That could contribute to some of it, but I don't know if that whole number, first of all, again, that hasn't been replicated. And also with the age and that, I think all three of those things are contributing.
Well, I mean, to me, it almost seems self-evident.
Okay.
So, I mean, there's that one study. 1 out of 3 men under 30 has not had sex in the past year. The corresponding number is 1 out of 6 women under 30 has not had sex in the past year.
The latest version of that actually shows women more likely to not have had
that's
sex.
what I
in
would.
the
So
past.
they're stuck on 2018 because 2018 is the 1 year it shows
Yeah.
this. That's why I want them to use a different year, because on those other years it shows women are having less sex than men. But that one,
I did think I saw the most recent
Yeah.
stats, and it was surprising.
It's surprising when it's not the 2018 graph.
Well, I did look, and perhaps COVID is related to this, but the number of participants was markedly lower than in previous years.